All right. Take it away, Sean. Do
Oh, I'm
your
taking it away.
Yeah, you do
Okay,
your thing.
my thing. Okay, good morning. My name is Sean from Toronto Police Traffic Services. Today is the 11th of June, and I'm joined by not only Brandon, but the man with a similar haircut, Scott Marshall. He is the safe driver. And good morning, everyone. How you doing?
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
It's Friday. It's always good.
Friday's a great
Friday.
day.
It's Friday. It's becoming a thing here in the office. Friday.
Yeah. We're gonna be like conditioned whenever we see Scott Marshall. It's gonna be a yay day, Friday yay day.
It is a yay day when you're with me, man.
That's right. And as Brandon has insisted, today is Scott's thoughts. This- he's,
I
he's
like
named
that.
he's named the show. He wants to call it Scott's Thoughts whenever you're on it. So
Let's make it a thing.
But if I don't have any thoughts, I could be thoughtless. It's been told that before.
that's
Well-
dangerous. That's a dangerous ground.
It's okay. We have tons to talk about today. First thing I want to talk about, though, we're going to go over the VZET locations for everybody, and then we're going to get into talking with our good friend Scott Marshall here. Obviously, we're going to be talking a little bit about car modifications. We're going to talk a little bit about eating and driving while you're driving. Is it legal? Is it safe? What's the deal with that? And we're going to talk about what exactly does make someone a good driver. So those of you who are concerned about VZET, so our VZET locations today, I'll pop them up on the screen there for everybody. VZET locations are going to be in 23 Division as well as 43 Division. So if you're unfamiliar with your divisional boundaries, 23 Division is west to Highway 427, north to Steeles, sort of the Etobicoke limit, east to Humber River, south to Eglinton, and 43 is west to Brimley, north to 401, and east to Rouge River, south to the Scarborough shoreline. If you aren't sure where to find that stuff, again, you can go to torontopolice.on.ca/divisions. Click through the map, find out exactly where you are. There's a large map for you to select from, and then there's individual spots for you to pick exactly where you might be. So if you're curious about that, you can go ahead and find that there. If you're not sure about what the Vision Zero Enforcement Team does, the goal of the Vision Zero Enforcement Team is to reduce serious collisions and fatalities to zero throughout the city of Toronto.
Yeah, it's to reduce it the collisions that cause injury and death on our roadways, because we acknowledge that minor fender benders, collisions will occur. They're inevitable, but the ones that lead to serious injury and death are preventable, and it's through changing driver behavior and amongst other things. So those men and women of the Vision Zero Enforcement Team are out there every day trying to change the behavior of drivers by focusing on the big four. That's the behaviors such as speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving, and impaired driving. And they're doing a phenomenal job. We had Sergeant Brett Moore on yesterday, and he said that over a 3-hour period that the Vision Zero team went onto the highway, they got 7 stunt drivers within 3 hours. So it's really amazing. They do a phenomenal job, and we'll hopefully connect with them later on today for a little update. But in the meantime, what's next on the agenda?
Well, before we get into anything else, I want to make sure we cover for everyone who's watching that you can message us here in the chat overlay. So if you have
Absolutely.
questions, if you want to pick Scott's brain because it's Scott's Thoughts Day, if you want to pick the brain of the big guy over there, Sean, please drop your comments here. We can answer anything you've got. It's how we really serve you best, because we want to know exactly what
Absolutely.
you guys want to know. So we'll go into that whenever you guys have some questions. But the first question I had today for Scott is related to car modifications. While some of them aren't necessarily illegal, I was hoping you could talk about sort of like the who, what, where, when, and why as to car modifications. When are they okay? When can they be safe? Like when you see them in your world, like what's your sort of opinion on them?
Well, safety is always the same thing, right? My tag is the safe driver. So anything that you do that is going to compromise the safety of you, your passengers, or even other road users is really a no-no. We do see some pretty slick modifications that are out there. You can get stuff online, and now that you can get back into some non-essential retail stores, you get a little chance to browse in person. You just got to be really careful, and if you're unsure, if it looks really cool and like, okay, that I want to get that, it's not always legal in every jurisdiction. Even though the retail store might be able to sell it, it's just not necessarily the deal. So the best is to check online, make sure it's Ontario, not Canada, because not all provinces are the same,
Mm-hmm.
and not all, North America is the same. So this could be like the tint. We talked a little bit about tint before. The fact that you can't have your windshield tinted or your side windows overly tinted, I think it's up to 30%. So before you go to the tint shop, they're going to do what you ask, but you have to know it's the buyer beware situation. You can do a lot of things to your vehicle to make it look snappy, but you've got to make sure that it's safe, it's not distracting, and it's not illegal.
Mm-hmm.
You make a really good point, and that you go to a store, they'll do what you ask them because they want your money, they want your business, and they know if they say no, that you'll go to somebody else who'll say yes. So, very often we're now hearing that some that stores that are savvy are saying, just sign this document and acknowledge that we've warned you that it's illegal. So you don't turn around and say, well, it's not my fault, it's the tint shop's fault. But at the end of the day, you're responsible for what you drive around with, whether or not the tint came with your car, you installed it, the previous owner installed it. It's on your car, you're responsible.
That's right. So there's a friend of mine, his brother bought a used vehicle, and it had tint on the windows.
Mm.
And they got pulled over for having too dark of a tint. But he bought that vehicle. Well, again, it's the buyer beware type of thing. And that led me to write an article about, making sure that but also knowing why. Why is it not a good idea, and things like that. And making sure that you don't change your seatbelt harness. Yeah, the 5-point harness looks really cool. You see it at the race cars, but we still have the 3-point harness, and that's really what we need to use.
That's actually a really hot topic on TikTok and our social media platforms, because they say, well, it's safer. It's meant for racing. It's safer. More is better. Child seats have 5-point. Why shouldn't I have it? And trying to explain that there's a number of reasons why it doesn't work. And we spoke to Mr. De Silva from De Silva Racing, who talked about how he used to get strapped into a car before racing, and it took a pit crew person strapping him in until he was glued to that seat to make it effective. And that if it's just loosely buckled, it doesn't do anything. So a lot of it has to do with proper installation. A lot of it has to do with whether or not you're wearing it properly once it is installed. And then you have the additional issues about what happens if there's a collision. Do emergency responders, are they cutting 5 straps to extract you? Are they expecting that? So there's a lot going on there. It's a more complicated question. We're actually looking forward to seeing going and filming on location at De Silva Racing to discuss that kind of modification, but lots of discussion about it.
Well, even for child seats, putting a child seat in a way that's a modification, because you're adding an extra seat, a temporary seat at the time. There's, we see it in collision scenes and whatnot, that, the seat came loose and whatever. It's not so much that, the child was still buckled into the seat, but the seat was the one that was moving around.
Mm-hmm.
So there are child seat installation clinics. You can check online for that in your local community, just to make sure that your child is in the proper seat. You're making that modification. Make sure that it's done safely, because it is your child, right?
Absolutely. SIPSEC is a great resource. I don't know if we have their link up, but they will actually organize an installer to virtually meet with you to supervise and explain to you how to do it, make sure it's done properly. And they're a great resource, and I think they cover all of Canada, so they're really good. I can tell you that from unfortunate experience, I've gone and stopped drivers for various reasons, and whenever I see a child seat, I inspect them to make sure they're installed, not necessarily to code. We don't do an installation check where I tear the car apart. What we do is we do a quick little shake test where I put my hand on the seat to make sure it's secured. I can't tell you how many times a child seat has been simply sitting on the back seat, not even attached to the vehicle. So it's sad, and there's obviously charges that are related to that. But
Wow.
It's sad because that child would become a projectile with no protection.
Yeah,
absolutely, and that is the case, right? So we talk more about modifications, things in
Oh, our stream is
being safe. Anything that can become loose and become a projectile is definitely an issue.
So it's good to know. You know, we're going to have to get Amanda back on because we have an auxiliary officer with our program at Traffic Services who deals with SIPSAC. She's a professional in the industry, phenomenal resource. We have a video if you go into our history to look at it for anyone watching and interested. But we'll have her on again because she is just a wealth of information. And
she follows me on Twitter actually, and I follow her back. So.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right on. Yeah, she's awesome. And this is important information. We got the most important people when you're traveling with children. They are the most important people, as far as I'm concerned. And it's troubling when it's not done right. But we've gone off from mods, and we should get back to mods because there's more to talk about.
Well, kids are mods too. You know,
well, depending on the fashion of the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly modifiers of your life.
Yeah. So it really is about some people they're going to lower their vehicle and different things like that. So you got to find that fine line between it looks good, it's what you want, and does it fall under restrictions? Is it safe? Is it, would it pass the safety? And if these are questions that come with the answer of no, it doesn't pass the safety, no, it's not safe, then you got to create a balance. Or just have a hobby where you have a show car, and I know that can get very expensive. It's on my list on my bucket list one day, but to have a show car, but it's not my daily drive, right? So
I had a gentleman reach out to me. He's a member of the car community, very concerned about people who violate the road rules and modification rules, giving a bad name to those people who are enthusiasts who acknowledge that certain modifications are unsafe, but don't drive them on the road. They're show cars only. One of those modifications because he sent me a picture of his car, camber, where his wheels are facing the sky almost. They're riding on the edge or corner of the tire, totally unsafe. And he acknowledges that. He tows it where it has to go. It looks beautiful, but it's not going to get him to his destination safely, and for various reasons. So it's always nice to hear from members of the community who acknowledge what's going on and then act accordingly with those. But so many folks want to get a big jacked up truck. They want to raise it, but they don't realize that changes the dynamics of that vehicle's handling and the potential of having it tip over now in the event of a heavy cornering or collision, much, much easier and obviously dangerous. So, there's a lot to go into the decision-making process, especially for new drivers. It's not to say it's better for experienced drivers to have modified vehicles, but at least they're not starting out with a vehicle that's going to be, giving them a curveball.
That's right. And you talk about the wheels, and you have the oversized wheels. If they're sticking out beyond the fenders, they actually have that capacity to throw out stones and whatnot, and can create an issue and cracked windshields. And that's bye-bye. Gotta get them fixed. Right? You can't drive like that.
Not just windshields, but pedestrians. You're driving by and you're kicking up debris onto the vulnerable road users. Cyclists who are getting smacked. As a motorcyclist myself, I can't tell you how many times I've been hit by a stone. It hurts, and that momentary ouch could result in a collision if, depending on where you're hit, you get hit in the face with a stone. You may have inadvertently caused a collision that may take someone's life. So that little innocent, it looks cool modification could result in serious harm to another person, and it's just not something on the average person's radar.
Yeah, I think just to sum up from this is check with your local jurisdiction before you buy it. The stores, just because the stores sell it doesn't mean it's legal. Take a look at the safety implications, and it's not about getting caught. It's about what happens if you injure a pedestrian or a motorcyclist or any other road user, and what if you injure yourself or your passengers? Sure. It's not worth the risk to have that deal that you bought something on Amazon or being able to go into the store.
And speaking of risk, so sort of like with car modifications, they're not necessarily illegal. There are some that are obviously illegal, and there are many that can still be dangerous and unsafe. And in that sort of vein of practices, Scott, you were talking about this on your recent podcast, and I was listening, so we're going to talk a bit more about it today.
It sounds like a plug.
Oh yeah, always. We'll make sure we plug it all. Eating and driving. So it's not necessarily legal. It can be related to some charges, right? If you somehow are involved in a collision because you were eating and driving, you could potentially get some charges. Not necessarily, again, distracted driving, but what and when? Is there a time? Like, what are your thoughts on the whole snacking and driving situation? I mean, people throw food back to their kids all the time, but they don't have their hands on a wheel, so.
Yeah, so on my last podcast, I was talking about, as you guys know, My confession was that years ago I was a snacker. Being in road safety for 33 years, I've had to stop that because you're in the car all the time. And so if you're going to have a snack, it has to be something that, like you pop a candy in your mouth, or you're at a red light, you take a bite of a granola bar. But it's not where you're going to hold it the whole time. And in my podcast, it was a little bit of tongue in cheek. What was the cause of the accident, sir, or the collision, sir, or the crash, sir, whatever the language they use. We like collision. And sorry, it was mustard, because I spilled mustard and I looked down, where'd I spill it? And then I rear end the guy in front. So it's like, really, you're going to tell people and put in the police report that the cause was your cheeseburger? No, it's being stopped. And the best time, really, if you want a snack, park. How long is it going to take you to eat your sandwich? How long is it going to take you to have that burger?
And you can savor it. You can enjoy it.
Well, yeah. So one of the year, what year was it? I think it was the second year that I did Canada's Worst Driver. One of the participants who was in the GT at the time likes to eat burgers while driving, and it's a distraction. It doesn't fall under the distraction driving laws, but it can be even more severe if you get into a collision of careless driving, and because you're not in control of your vehicle. And they had the burger container in their hand, and their knees were dry. No, it's not a talent. It really is not a talent.
At least not one you should be bragging about.
No, it's not. It's not. And we had footage when they were doing it, when we were getting footage for the people in their home community. And it's not something to be proud of. What you can be proud of is the fact that you're organized. And have breakfast before you leave. I've seen people eat a bowl of cereal in the car. Mm-hmm. And I will say that there's a driving lane and there's a passing lane, but there's no eating lane. Mm. So and even I was doing a commute with another instructor, and we were returning a training vehicle, and they were behind, and they noticed that when I took a sip of my water, it was at a red light because I'm stationary, right? I still have control of my vehicle. So, you're going to sip your coffee. If you want to sip your coffee, you get down to the last drop and you tilt your head back. Well, now I'm not looking out the windshield. If I dribble down my shirt, I'm going to look. Human nature.
So it's funny you bring up coffee, because I had a coffee experience. I was going to a big box store to do some shopping, and I like to brew my coffee at home and carry it in a sealed container like this. And it's a great container because it doesn't spill, except when it does. I test this every morning now, just like this, because my experience was I raised it to drink, didn't press the button yet, and I poured all the hot coffee all over my chest. Now, I was in the parking lot when that happened, but had I been driving, can you imagine the response? Ow, ow, ow. That's waiting to happen, a collision waiting to happen. Yeah, but you think about all these fast food cup holders when you grab a coffee in the drive-through. Is it sealed? Is it going to spill on you? And what happens if it does? So being stopped is a great way to at least mitigate the risk if you're going to have a cup failure. I didn't enjoy that at all.
No, I'm sure not. But I think that's a good point. Is make sure that if you are going to a drive-through or whatever, and you're getting your coffee to go, and it's so common, and we all do it, but check the lid, right? Mm-hmm. And open it up a little bit. And if you are going to take a sip, pick and choose when you're going to do it. Even if you're not stopped, if you're going to hit the expressway, if it's jam-packed, it's not a good time, because there's so much going on. You have vehicles passing you, and behind you, and in front of you. Yeah. You need to be completely alone in a bubble of traffic, and it depends on where you are. Sometimes you are, sometimes you're not. I was on the 407 this morning, and nothing really. Traffic was flying by me, and I chose it because of a collision delayed my time, and so it was convenient. So because there's no one there, you can take that sip of coffee, you can take a bite of your granola bar, but you still have to have your mind on your driving, and that's the problem with the distraction. It takes your mind away, and muscle memory. You know how to chew. You know how to swallow your food. You don't think about it. But the moment you spill, that's the time you start not paying attention.
But it's funny you say it's one of those autonomous things that you know how to chew. But what happens if you choke? What happens if it goes down the wrong way? What happens? I mean, we laugh,
Yeah.
but it's a real potential.
Yeah, it is a potential. So, I mean, I like the
They're
coffee.
having a thing.
I get a
Something's
coffee.
happening with their connection.
I get a coffee.
They're trying to fix it. I
and
think we're back.
and we're good. But I will have my breakfast either before or when I get to my office, whether it's delicious BLT or a bowl of cereal, and I won't have it in the car.
Oh man. Okay, I'm hungry now. But I
I
wanted
know,
to.
bacon and eggs,
Why you do this?
sausages.
Brutal.
I am going for a patio tomorrow. Oh yeah. I
So
haven't eaten yet.
you mentioned the gentleman with the burger, and that was kind of interesting to me. I'd be interested to know, like, did this person think he was a good driver already? Because I was doing a bit of research and I found a few articles, basically actually studies from the United States, saying that people don't necessarily understand whether they are a good or a bad driver. They kind of naturally assume that their driving habits are the natural driving habits and that they are good. I believe it's related to the Dunner-Kruger principle, where you don't have the awareness to actually realize that you're not good at something, so you overestimate your abilities. What are your thoughts on that, Scott? Because you've taught a lot of people, and you were a host of Canada's Worst Driver, and I was watching some of those videos, and those guys are they're rough.
Yeah, and there's no offense to anybody who's viewing this. It is a mentality, and I've had a lot of people come up over the years because of what I've done in the past, and they say, "Well, why don't you have a show called Canada's Best Driver?" And I said, "Because you're going to have 20 million people apply, because everybody thinks they're a good driver."
Mm.
And so I will ask them, "Why do you say you're a good driver?" "Well, I just told you." "Oh, I've only been in 3 collisions, but none of them were my fault." That makes you good. I took a senior out years ago, who I knew prior to coming to Young Drivers Canada, and he said, "I've never been involved in a collision," but he was going 40 in a 50 zone when traffic was going 55. So I had to be blunt to him and said, "You may not have been involved, but I'm wondering how many you caused because of your actions." So yesterday, I'm on the QEW, right-hand lane, 100K, traffic in the left-hand lane, so there's a lot going on. Someone's attempting to merge ahead of us, going maybe 80, and then they hit their brakes in the acceleration lane, and now they're going even slower, and we couldn't move over for it. And if we brake, we're going 60. That puts us at risk. So it's part of it is taking a look at yourself in the mirror. Are you causing other people to react to you? If you're causing other people to react to you regularly, chances are your decision-making skills are weak. Maybe it's because you're not looking far enough ahead. If you look further ahead, you can think further ahead. You see things in advance. Now you can decide, all right, what am I going to do about it? And then you've got time to do it. You want to have those choices. But it even starts about positioning. Is your position in the right place? Are you causing someone else to slam on their brakes because of your decisions? It's not it's not an entitlement, and it's not like, well, I can do this and I can do that. I posted on a Facebook group that I'm involved with on tips about setting up mirrors, and the way that you set them up when you first learn to drive may not be the best way. And maybe you're missing stuff, and someone said, "I'm a good driver and I was self-taught." How do you know? Like, really, how do you know, especially if you're self-taught? And I've used this analogy for decades. Just because you can brush your teeth doesn't mean you know how to fill a cavity. Just because you brush your teeth doesn't mean you can fill somebody else's cavity. You can do your self-maintenance, but you don't know the details of it. And when I talk driving to the general public, there's a lot of things they didn't know, because I think we had talked about it as an analogy. You go to a gym and you have a personal trainer, and that personal trainer trains you on all the different things you can do. Then that personal trainer leaves and you get a new one, and they show you things you didn't know. So being open-minded is great when you're learning something new. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and my goal when I started writing, that was 16 years ago in 2005. And my goal when I was writing a piece was if I could make one person go, I didn't know that, then that satisfied me for my day. Just one person a day.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing on a podcast, same thing with what you guys are doing. If one person says, well, I didn't know that, thanks. If it can change their driving to be a safer driver, then that's a good thing. But I think we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and realize, what can I do to improve?
That's tough. How does someone develop that awareness? Because not everyone can sign up to be a part of Canada's Worst Driver, where it's quite obvious, and you get that instruction. I feel like a lot of people feel like they get that G license, and boom, it's done. It's like, okay, well, you got that when you were like 18 years old, 19 years old.
No.
You could probably use a refresher. How does someone get access to something like that?
So yeah, that plastic card doesn't say you're a good driver. It means that you're able to pass a road test. Excuse me. And if there's very little traffic on the road during that time, you weren't really tested overly.
That's right.
I've had very good students go for a road test and they had a whack of traffic to deal with and they struggled, but they did a good job. And I have a student, and I've never taken anybody who couldn't drive. That's what was in my head, in my heart. If you pass your road test today, you get to drive by yourself. So I have to say yes or no sometimes. And it's tough sometimes saying no, but it's my job to say no. You're not ready to drive by yourself. But I passed the evaluation. I know that. But there was no traffic. When you get traffic, there's a problem. So how can you decide without going on Canada's Worst Driver, which is no longer in production? Part of it, there's driver improvement programs. Working at Young Drivers Canada, we've been doing that for a lot of years. And there's other organizations that will assess your driving. But when they assess your driving, they give you the feedback. It's feedback. It's designed to help you.
Constructive feedback.
Yeah. You don't want to go, well, that's not right. I disagree with you. Well, you can disagree, but you asked. And there's a friend of mine who used to be an instructor 20 years ago. That's when he stopped. He still does driver improvement programs. And he's in a completely different industry. And but he enjoys driving because he realizes, okay, yeah, he was an instructor, but he realizes what everything else is going on around him. So as a driver, for the viewers and listeners, when you see other drivers doing things that annoy you or frustrate you or scare you, wouldn't it be a good idea to find a lot of different ways that you can protect you, your possession, your investment of a vehicle, and your passengers? So you only know what you know. And the saying is, you don't know what you don't know.
You know what? I just thought about something actually. There's a great way to get to know what you don't know, and that's by following our good friend here, Scott Marshall, at Safe Driver. You can also
What a beautiful segue, Brandon.
He's the man.
You can also catch his blog. You're going to catch him at www.thesafedriver.ca. How often does that go up, Scott?
I'm trying to post 4 times a month.
Amazing.
Sometimes you know what? I tell you, it's tough when it's really nice outside, because on Saturday morning I want to sit on my porch, have a coffee, instead of going onto the laptop and write an article. But I do try to post 4 times a month.
Good. Well, while everyone else is on the porch sipping their coffee, they can listen to Scott's podcast as well, at Speed Bumps, the Safe Driving Podcast.
Pro man.
He's slick, eh? He's slick this morning.
Oh yeah.
He had it
fun
before he drove.
All right. Yeah, that's my big moment. So
that's awesome. Just something I threw out a test because I was like, it's really quiet. We don't get a lot of chat, but activity, but we got none today. And someone said they were coming, so I threw a chat in using my phone, and it didn't work. So I apologize to anyone who's watching. If you tried to send a message and it didn't work, there's obviously something going on with Restream this morning, and hopefully that will be back in business for our next episode on Monday. in terms of what we're doing later today, if you are interested in having a very active Q&A, join us at 9 o'clock. We will be on TikTok, where all the fun happens, having what I like to say, a fire hose of questions thrown at us for about an hour. We go from 9 a.m. till 10 a.m. If you don't have the app, you should get it. If you got it or get it, it's good, and you can get us at Traffic Services there. So please feel free to do that. Of course, follow us on all the other platforms. What else? What else? Did we miss something, Brandon?
I don't think so. I think Scott just carried us away. We were so lulled by his by the melody of his voice. I don't know. That was 30 minutes. That blew by.
Well, if that's the case, things are reopening this weekend, as we talked about. I am eager to go to a patio and be served bacon and eggs. I know that it is a small win to enjoy that, but I'm going to do it. So I hope everyone has a wonderful and safe weekend. If you are going to be driving, please drive sober. We will be out, as we always are, doing enforcement and looking for impaired drivers. So be safe out there. And yeah, that's my bit. You guys have anything to add before we say goodbye to everyone?
No, I'm going to be driving this weekend, but it'll be on the golf course.
Nice.
Ooh.
Well, make sure you have adequate protection.
A lot of sunscreen.
Yes.
Yeah, the two of you.
It's susceptible. Awesome. Well, thank you very much again. We look forward to next week where we get to see you again. And yeah, we'll say goodbye for now, but we'll see you again soon.
Take care.